Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 274 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by, you already know who it is the former heavyweight world title challenger himself. It is of course Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. I'm just relaxing right now.
Okay, my friend, good stuff. Good to have you back once again. This show is going to be slightly different because there's nothing to review or preview. There will be a guest. There's maybe one piece of news to mention at the minute, and that is that on February 27th, here in the UK, in London, it's been announced. It was one of the fights I mentioned last week. I wasn't sure it was going to be able to, to go ahead because of the ban on boxing in the UK and whatever. But yeah, it's going ahead. February 27th in London. Jamel Herring defends his WBO super featherweight world title against Carl Frampton. So no real surprises there. A lot of people knew that one was going down, but February 27th is the date. No venue just yet announced. It's going to be in London. I'm guessing it's going to probably be the BT Sports Studio, but not quite sure. But yeah, that's the one piece of news. Like I say, nothing to review, nothing to preview. That means we're going to come to Eddie for the Lockdown Knockdown. And then after that will be when we bring in our sole guest on this week's podcast, which at this stage, it could be Jamel Herring. If it's not him, it could be someone else. This is being recorded on Wednesday evening, so things could change, but for now, it hopefully will be Jamel Herring. But anyway, that will happen after the Lockdown Knockdown. Eddie, last week we discussed the comeback fight after the loss to Klitschko when you came back against Derek Rossi. You beat him on points, and yeah, that brings us into the Tomasz Adamek fight, which, like I said on last week's show, if anyone wanted to go and watch that fight, it's a brilliant fight to watch. Probably, not so happy to look back on for you, Eddie. Obviously, with what happened early on, and then the decision which no one seems to agree with. But anyway, where are we starting today, man?
Well, we're going to start right after the fight I had with Rossi, and talk a little bit about not financial, but managerial adjustments that happened, which was what happened after that fight. And that particular fight, that was one that was going to set me up for a rematch, which would have been great with Vladimir Klitschko and would have put me in position to, well, actually, that was supposed to be one of the preliminary bouts. And then which was like, let's call it a semifinal. And then I was supposed to have another fight with two other guys. It was Mo Harrison, a good friend of mine, Tony Thompson, who were also fighting and looking for that opportunity to get another shot. Well, for Tony, it would have been another shot at Vladimir. For Mo Harris, it would have been his first opportunity. But it turned out that I thought the fight wasn't going to happen with those two guys. And it was supposed to be that I was going to fight Rossi, and then whoever won that would just go on ahead and be the next number one contender, which is what I thought. But then they, of course, flipped it around and changed it. And it was a lot of craziness going on with managerial issues. I told you, I don't like to go too much into the business too much in these talks, but it was a little rough because I'm thinking, like, I'm about to fight Vladimir again, get another great payday, get an opportunity to beat world champion. And then all of a sudden, oh no, you got to fight this other guy first. and it's just kind of the same thing all over again. All of the fights I've had, not all of the fights, any of the fights I've had previously before the Vladimir fight were all like, how do I say it? Me and Areola were under the same promotional team, right? And Chris Areola seemed to always, and I don't like saying it like this, but I have to be honest. Seemed like he always had the softer fights, like the fights that were, I don't know, better suited for for any fighter that kind of get his way, making his way toward an opportunity for a title. But they weren't really like big fights. Like I remember he fought Jamil McCline, and Jamil McCline was literally 4 years retired, and he fought Jamil McCline. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, but that was the fight before he fought Vitaly Klitschko. So I'm like, how do you fight a guy that was retired for years that I'm not sure was even in the rankings? And I guess there's all kind of little things you can do to get them in that position. But and then I'm sitting here fighting guys like I had to fight Samuel Peter, one fight removed from heavyweight champion, and then I had to fight Alexander Dmytrenko, who was slated to be the next Vladimir. And it's like, why do I have to fight those kind of guys? But this other kid doesn't have to fight either of them, and he's going to get a shot too. And it's like, it just doesn't make sense. But it had a lot to do with, obviously, I'm not as popular as, I wasn't as popular as Areola. I didn't have the fan-friendly style, those types of things. So it just didn't work out that way. So I had to do it a little harder. But then, it always seemed to be like that. Even after when I fought Derek Rossi, now I'm in a situation where I'm feeling like I'm going to be fighting for the title. But, oh no, I gotta fight again. And not only do I have to fight again, I have to fight another top level contender, one of the better guys of this time. And I'm like, why do I got to fight him? Southpaw. You know what I mean? A big, tall southpaw, when I was already told that I was going to get the title shot again. And then I'm like, you know what? I got to up to that point. I'm looking at, what my money was like from the Vladimir fight. And then I'm looking at all the other little things that was going on. And I'm just sitting there like, you know what? I think it's time to start think about moving on. So I started talking to people, and some of my people that gave me some information about what was happening in my career at the time, financially and just in general, and things that were happening. So we were having a discussion, and they also showed me some things that went on early in my career, money wise, and that just solidified it. And I said, you know what, it's time to move on. So we worked our way into a situation. I mean, obviously, it was some real crazy. It was a crazy time, weird feelings involved, because these people were like my family. You know what I mean? The manager I had and my co-promoter was like, like a father. Like one of them was like a father. His father was like a father to me. He was like a brother. So it's like there's a lot of things that were involved there beyond just business that I was breaking away from. You know what I'm saying? And there's some guilt that I had dealt with a little bit in that at that time. But at the end of the day, I felt like I had to do what I had to do to, become my own man in a sense, and take care of my business, do it the right way, and to make sure that I actually had money and had a future, you know what I mean, going forward. So we had separated, and I ended up getting with a different promotional company as well, because I feel like, the whole ties to the whole thing was the problem when that was with Goose and Tudor at the time. And I think it was just time. So we ended up separating, and I got with the Main Events, which is Kathy Duva promotional team. All right. And so I signed with them not too long after because I got an injury preparing for Tony, because I was going to fight him anyway. And then after that happened, we just kind of said, screw it. And then I was on the shelf for a little bit because of the injury. I had a little injury getting ready for Tony, even though that fight fell through. Met with Kathy. They gave me an opportunity. They said and I actually went to a fight that they had scheduled in, and it's crazy. I remember it was a fight with, I think it might have been, it was a main events card, But I think they had, because Don King was there for whatever reason. I think he had a fighter on the card. I'm trying to remember what the fighter's name is. I just can't remember at this moment. But I think he fought Zab Judah that night. And it was just crazy because I remember Zab kept looking out in the audience at Don because he was beating up on his fighter. And he was like, I guess they had some bad blood or beef or something. But anyway, but I was there, so I was watching the fight. And actually, Tomasz Adamek fought. Let's just say that. Tomasz Adamek fought. He fought, what's the kid's name? Nagi Aguilera, who was like a perennial, like a I don't want to say a trial horse, but he was somewhat of a contender, but like on that C+ level. That wasn't quite, like I said, top class, but was tough enough that he'd give you a little bit of trouble and kind of show you what, whether you're really that guy or not. And I think Tomasz had been heavyweight for a little while. I don't think he's been heavyweight that long up to that point. And he of course beat Aguilera, and he hurt him at one point. And he looked, kind of okay, at heavyweight because, he wasn't really, I guess, that familiar with heavyweight. But he was kind of, like, people were looking at him like he was such a great boxer. Oh, he's just so good at, he's this, he's that. And I'm like, well, listen, the reason that he looks like such a great boxer is because he's coming from a lighter division. The pace is different. The boxing skill level is different in the lighter weight classes. When he moves up to heavyweight, he's going to have to become a boxer because he's not going to be the biggest guy. And he's not going to be the strongest or the hardest punching guy. So his things are going to be a little different. That doesn't make him a real quality boxer. That was my first thing that I said when he moved to the division. And watching the fight, I saw exactly that. And I was watching it, and I was, we were all talking, me and I, at the time, it was me, Bashir, and my brother Steve, and we were all talking like, yo, man, you could get that fight. And I was sitting there thinking like, man, you think I can get it? And I was like, because, we signed up with them anyway. Maybe just talk to Kathy and see what she says. So we were there talking, and I actually, one of the first things I said to her, when we were starting to have a conversation, it was after we met at her office. I was talking to her. I said, hey, Tomasz looked good tonight. He did some stuff. I think we can have a fight together and really do well. And I think it'll be good for everyone involved. So, oh, Tomasz, you thinking about, you want to fight Tomasz? You want to fight him right away? And I was like, well, maybe. I mean, this, I haven't fought probably a year up to that point because this was, I think, my last fight was obviously February 10th, if I'm not mistaken, of 2011 at that time. And I think the time I was talking to her, that fight was on the 10th, 11th, or 12th, or something like that of the following year. So I've been out of, I was not out of training, but out of commission for a year. I didn't train. I mean, not to say I didn't train. I was trained a little bit, but I didn't fight for a while. So they were saying, okay, well, and I was like, well, so maybe let me get a little fight in before. Let me get like a warm-up fight. And she was like, well, I don't know. And this is where the game comes in. You know what I mean? No matter who your promoter is, no matter what the situation is business-wise, trust me. You know what I mean? If they feel like they got a golden opportunity to get something that they want for a low price, they're gonna put it on the table and put it to where you can almost have to say yes, and you just can't say no. So the situation was presented like, I said, oh, well, maybe give me a warm-up fight in between. Let me get some. Oh, I can't promise you to fight more than, we got another card, I think, in June. And I would definitely love for that to be the main event on that card. I can't promise you any further away than that. You may be tied up, and you never know. He might lose a fight, and the interest can go away, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there like, I see what this is all about. But then I bite. So I said, okay, cool, because I knew I could beat him. I knew it wasn't going to be that hard of a situation for me, in my opinion, and in my team's opinion. So I said, you know what? The hell with it. Let's go on with it. You can make the fight. Let's make it for June. And she said, oh, that's so great. She was so happy. Let's make this fight. Let's do this. And I don't know if people know, but the previous month before me discussing one, I'm a real big time dieter, if that's a thing. But I'm really big on diet and trying to do the best to take care of yourself and make sure you're at your optimum. So one of the things I do often well, kind of often, semi-often, is I detoxify. So what I did, like I detoxify my body of all, diet, different, all diet issues. Like for example, like if I say, for me, it's meat. If I'm eating a lot of meat, pause, or sweets and just all those types of things. I try to detoxify my body and keep it out of my body for about 20 days while taking certain like meds, not like like from the, this is over the counter stuff, but it's herbal things. So I take it and I clean my body. So what I did was, previous to that, I did that. And I did that a lot because obviously, like I said, I wanted to be healthier, but I also wanted to give myself a start on getting back into real good shape, because for maybe 3 or 4 months, I wasn't able to train because of an injury. So that kind of, you get a little heavy, things happen. So I detoxified my body. It was the first time I've done it. And I'm going to tell you, I felt incredible. I had lost probably, and I wasn't really overweight necessarily. I was maybe like 220 or something like that ish. And I got myself down from 220 to maybe like to 195, 196. And that was, I wasn't even in camp. We weren't even talking about fighting at that point. I mean, we were talking about fighting, but we weren't talking about fighting Tomasz or anything like that. We had just basically started the process of getting with Kathy. So anyway, so I was already starting just to get myself ready to get prepared for what I was going to be doing. So at one point I was thinking about going to Cruiser, but I changed my mind. I seen an opportunity with Tomasz. So anyway, and what I did was, so I cleaned my body. So when I went to camp, after everything was solidified, we knew the fight was going to happen. I went to camp, and I think I started camp at like 200, maybe 205 or 6 pounds or something like that. Now, and I'm a heavyweight. I'm fighting heavyweight, and it's like most of my career, I would say from 214 to about 210 to 220 is where I kind of hovered in between there. And then sometimes I get a little heavy, but for the most part, I was there. But this time I had showed up to camp at the weight of like maybe 205. So my body weight, and I had started to train some, so my body weight was already under control. So the whole camp was like focusing on just keeping the diet clean, working on specific things, practicing like different things. Like we watched a lot of tape of James Toney, got old school fighters like Jersey Joe and even some Ezra Charles, different stuff like that Bashir put me on to, because Bashir, he's like a real scientist when it comes to this stuff. So we're watching those videos and looking at some of the things that the guys are doing, especially James Toney. Studied James a lot, and I just like and I really had a real renewed hunger and an intense desire to be great in that sport again. You know what I mean? I like in boxing. It was just like, and I had so much fun in camp. I can't tell you. It's like I don't think you're supposed to have that much fun in camp. But it wasn't that we had fun and we didn't work. Like we were working hard. Like, I mean, really working hard. But at the same time, it was on things that were enjoyable. You know what I mean? It was like we had fun. We would talk about different stuff, make jokes and all that. The camp was so loose, but at the same time, it was so structured. Like we were sparring. Like I was literally sparring. And 1 week, I'm gonna tell you, the first day of the week, which would be Monday, we would go 10 rounds, right? The next day would be 12 rounds. No. Sorry, my bad. We would go 10 rounds. The next day would be 15 rounds. Then Wednesday, that was our day off. Come back Thursday, 12 rounds. Finish off the week with 10. That was my sparring schedule. And let me tell you, I had some of the best sparring partners. Now, granted, trust me, there's obviously other heavyweight sparring, different sparring that I could have had. But I always wanted, especially for a guy who's supposed to be fast or athletic, more athletic than what the norm as far as heavyweights would be, I would always want to spar guys who were lighter. Not necessarily shorter, but lighter. And I had one of my favorite spar partners of all time, which He's not my favorite because I enjoyed the sparring at first. No, he was my favorite because I knew he was getting me right for the sparring. And that was a guy by the name of Edwin Rodriguez. This dude, I was watching him spar before because he was, because if it wasn't, and I got to give Andy Lee a real shout out. If it wasn't for Andy Lee, I don't know what I would have done in that camp. And when I say give a shout out to Andy Lee, because Andy Lee did not say, a lot of guys would say, man, I don't want my sparring partner sparring with nobody else. Like, no, because I don't want nobody getting hurt and, they're here on my dime and blah, blah, blah. He said, oh, no, of course. If they want to spar, if they're okay with it, yeah, absolutely. I want them to help. And, and by the way, I was actually doing camp at Kronk, and we were doing it in the summer, which if anyone knows about Kronk in the summer, it's like, I don't know, 150 degrees, you know what I mean, in the shade, you know what I'm saying, in that gym. It's just unbelievably hot. But it really obviously that helped. That gym turned me into a real beast that time, I'm going to be honest. But anyway, so with Edwin, it was Edwin, and I was actually working with Aaron Pryor Jr., if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I was working with him. I was also working with a good friend of mine. His name was Ricardo Wallers. He was there. He was helping me out. Jonathan Banks was another guy that I was working with who was actually a former cruiserweight contender and heavyweight contender. A couple other lighter weight guys that were really, really, really good for sparring at that point. The pace was faster, but the one that really sticks out was Edwin because he was on my case. And this dude seemed like he did not, in sparring, he did not stop throwing punches, it seemed like. And it wasn't like he was not skilled or anything like that. He had plenty of skills, but it was just a volume that was like, wow. Like the first maybe 3 times that I sparred him, I couldn't keep pace. The first time I was kind of like shocked by it. Then the second time I was like, okay, I'm gonna be ready now. I'm gonna handle this work, man. I tried to keep pace. I did the first round and a half, 2 rounds. I was like, yeah, I got this. Once I got to that 3rd round, I was like, no, I don't got it, not yet. It's like I was gonna take me another couple days to get this. Especially sparring those kind of guys and knowing I'm gonna have to do 10, 12, 15 rounds of sparring. You know what I'm saying? Was like, what the hell am I gonna do? How am I gonna deal with this? So, and like I said, I started camp not necessarily too out of shape. I was actually, I felt great from my diet. I felt great from, some of the work that I've been doing. So everything was good. It had nothing to do with my condition. It was the work. These guys were on my case and I loved it. I hated it, but I loved it at the same time. It was a love-hate thing at the time. But Edwin was all over me. Then eventually, which maybe over the next maybe 2 days or so of sparring that we had, I started to get myself together. I started to catch my groove. You know what I mean? And I started to, do little things and land certain shots. My punch count was as high as it's ever been. And that was one of the things that we really made a focal point for the camp, was that on the bag, on the pads, everything, I'm throwing punches, a lot of punches. And because of my style, like that's not one of my forte. I don't throw a volume of, I don't waste punches. That's just not what I do. So I had trained, we had trained, that was such a hard but yet fun camp. I wish every camp I had would have been that way, but at the same time, it just doesn't work out. But that camp, just trying to get me out of my comfort zone, throwing a lot of punches, and all of the hard sparring round after round after round of difficult sparring. But by the end of camp, and this is another thing about Kronk too, I'm gonna say this before I get to the end. Kronk has guys who comes into the gym at the time, and they weren't even like guys who fought often, but they just in the gym sparring, gym rats. You know what I mean? We always saw K9 be in the gym all the time, running his mouth, but training every day. And it was but they had guys who were just gym rats, right? So there might be a guy that'll jump in, but I'll jump in and spar. And we talk about, I'm a high level professional. some of these dudes don't even have any fights, and they'll get in there and give you some work. And I was like, whoa, like really? Like there was a heavyweight kid that came in there he was fast and everything, and I was like, damn, like I'd never even heard of this guy before. You know what I mean? But he got in there, and I don't think he had much more than a few amateur fights, and he was actually doing work. I don't even know if he had any amateur fights or how many amateur fights he had, if he had any. But he was actually good. He had speed. He had decent skills. And it was just like, you get guys off the street and you just wonder, man. Think about, in different places, different sports. Like there's actually people that just walk in the streets that have the talent to be, maybe next level professionals. And because of, I don't know, relationships or drugs or just the streets in general, they're just not able to do it. But it was like, wow, it was a shock. And then you just, you go outside, you look at Detroit in the area, and it was just like, man, there's a rundown place in certain spots, and it just looks like it has a rough life kind of staple that's just there, and it just looks like whoever lives here is going to struggle a little bit. But anyway, so periodically I would have a guy jump in the ring, and like I said, it would be somebody that was not even a part of the whole thing, and it was just like, damn, he would get in there and actually be good. And it was just a shock. But anyway, the sparring was great, and like I said, eventually I really hit a groove, and I got to the point where I just didn't get tired. I mean, it was hot as a mug in the gym, and I just couldn't I couldn't breathe half the time. But I got to a point where it's just like I was just on auto, like on cruise control. I was just like cruise control. You know what I mean? I would and cruise control, but with active left hand. My jab was just firing off, and just shots in general. My punch count was, man, I was throwing. I think we were doing punch counters. Just to kind of see where I was at, and I think I was even at one point up to 70 punches or something, maybe per round, depending on who I was in there with. So I was like, man, and for me, that's like 100%. Then I was saying 100% increase, but you know what I mean. It was a lot of punches. So for me, 70-something punches per round. So the work, basically, what I'm saying, I'm telling you all that to tell you that the work was in. We did everything that was necessary to be in the proper shape. About 8 weeks in, you know what I mean, a good 7 to 8 weeks, and it was a great camp, and one of the best I've ever had. And so now, obviously, the work is in. We're now making our way and we are going from Detroit back to Newark, New Jersey, because the fight was at the Prudential Center, which at that point, at that time, was basically Little Poland for Tomasz, because believe me, there was maybe 3 or 4 people that were there to see me win, and the whole rest of that 15,000 people was for him. So it was a different. It wasn't necessarily a different experience for me, because I'm used to being over in Germany and being the visitor, and even when I fought Derek Rossi in Suffolk County up there in New York, I was also the visitor there. So I wasn't really it wasn't an unfamiliar thing, but I was definitely comfortable with the idea of being the visitor and trying to come there and take what was mine, taking on back to where I'm from. Even though I'm actually from this country, it still felt like an away fight, But I remember and at different times in camp, I think my weight had went all the way down to like 190 to 192. I know that sounds crazy for me getting ready for a heavyweight fight, but I was just training. Training was on a different level. And but anyway, so I was saying that because we go to the weigh-in, and I didn't know what my weight was, because at that point it was like, yo, stop getting on the scale, because we don't want to see it. You don't want to be discouraged or even overly happy just from what the scale is showing. We're just going to be in shape and ready to fight. So Bash, you should stop getting on the scale. Stop looking at it. So I did that, but I couldn't help but notice like my body and the way my body looked, and I was like, man, I don't think I'm that heavy, man. I don't know what I'm not. I don't know if it's going to be like a penalty or something with me being heavyweight and not being able to literally make heavyweight, meaning not being heavy enough to be heavyweight. I think at the time it was at 200 pounds. So we get to that weigh-in, and because we were kind of nervous about the whole thing about me weighing in, I weighed in with, of course, my sweatpants on, and I definitely made sure I put a couple of different phones in my pocket and my wallet, which was like George Costanza. I don't know if you're familiar with Seinfeld, but it was like his wallet, and then I had other things in my other pocket. Was almost not weights, but it was a lot of stuff in my pockets, right? To kind of make sure that I was a little heavy. I think I weighed the shoes on too. So I got on the scale, and even with all that stuff on, my body weight was 202 pounds. And I was like, damn, I'm 202? Reality, I'm probably like 195. And it was like, so 195, and Tomasz gets on the scale, he's 225. And it's like, damn, who was the heavyweight their whole career, me or him? And he's 225 pounds. And then different things come out of camp when people are talking, and they were saying that, well, that they didn't really need to get anyone that was like, fast or sharp or any lighter weight guys that he, for Tomasz to fight, because they figured, oh, well, Tomasz is fast enough and he's this and that enough to be able to deal with whatever Eddie Chambers brings. He's not really going to be all like that come fight night or whatever, and we'll be able to deal with it. And I think Povetkin has said something similar to that when we fought the first time, right? Well, not if I fight Povetkin twice, but I mean when I fought Povetkin. And both times, obviously with the Povetkin fight, he could not really deal with the speed. The only thing about him was he just picked up the pace, and I was out of shape. I wasn't able to deal with it. But anyway, in this particular fight, though, there was not going to be a chance of me being out of shape. I was 100% ready and ready to go. So I remember this is fight night now. So I remember being in the dressing room, and I felt like a little weird, but kind of good, like a little like strange, like a little bit too good. You know what I mean? And I was thinking, oh, here we go. Something's going to happen, or something bad is happening. And then the nerves start really rising up. Like I used to get nervous the whole week of the fight, but then just became fight night. I would start to get nervous and get the jitters or whatever. And I'm in the dressing room, and if anyone who's fought or anybody who's listening to this actually fight, what it's like if you get nervous anyway before fights. What it's like to be in the dressing room waiting, especially when you're the main event, which is generally the last bout or one of the last bouts, and you just like waiting and waiting and waiting. It's like I always like just being first. You know what I mean? Put me on the first fight, get me in there, get it out the way. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to sit and just wait and stool over what's going to happen and just keep going over in your head how you're going to deal with the fight and just worry and all this other anxiety builds. You know what I mean? So, but of course, with main events, you have to, when you're the main event, you have to wait. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to, waiting to see you in a sense. So I'm like, all right, well, got to deal with it. So I'm in the dressing room and different people coming in. And I remember, I think BJ came in to see me. BJ Flores came in to see me, man. And it was like, real nice to come in and, see me before the fight and all. A couple interviews I had to do, asking me how I feel. And it's always a weird thing. And remember, I had been out of the ring up to I think it was about a year and 4 months to this point. Or no, something like that. I think about I don't know, whether it was 16 months. I think it might have been something like that. Yeah, a year and 4 months. I think I was out of the ring. So even though I've had a lot of experience, I had a lot of fights up to that point, it's still like when you don't fight or you haven't fought in a while, it's especially now that I'm not only getting back in the ring, but getting back into the ring with another elite guy. It's just a hell of a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? So in my mind, I'm just thinking like, man, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to be this? Am I going to be good enough? I know I trained hard. I feel good. I feel I'm in shape. But, this is Tomasz Adamek, man. Former light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion, 2-time this, that. I'm like, oh, man, he's this, he's that. And then I start talking about them in my head like they're the best thing ever. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that is my way of, psyching myself up to be able to say, man, forget them. I'll be able to deal with them. You know what I mean? I'm great too. that kind of thing. But no, I just in my head it just makes I'm just nervous. I'm just getting more nervous and getting more nervous. But the fight, they call and they say, hey, come on out. It's time to have your ring walk. And then as I'm going into the arena, then you hear your music playing, your ring walk music playing. You start to get a little more calm. You start to think about, positive things and how this actually feels. And then seeing a crowd, whether the crowd's cheering for you or not, just seeing a whole big crowd there to see you, it kind of gives you, that boost, that little boost. So I'm going, and as I get closer to the ring, I know Mike said this before, and I didn't think about it at the time, but that was exactly what was happening. The closer you get to the ring, the more you start to feel great, and you start to feel in control, and you start to feel at home. You know what I mean? So I'm starting to get to the ring, and just like I said on the other ones, that it's like I started to feel stronger and better and more comfortable. And then when I get in there, it was like, man, I'm just waiting for them to just ring the damn bell. I'm tired of sitting listening to all this shit. I'm just ready to fight. You know what I'm saying? And once I got into the ring, I really started to feel good. Like I started to feel so good that I was like, man, I mean, it's like you don't even want to get out the ring. Like it's like I didn't even want to go sit down in between rounds. It just felt so good. Like I didn't feel like I needed to rest. I didn't feel like anything. You know what I mean? I was in there. I remember hearing I think it was Joe Antonacci who was announcing me, and I just felt really, really, really good. And like a lot of times I got in the ring because I would either be overtrained or I would have something that I didn't do 100% proper, and in camp, and it would kind of make me a little more tired than I should be at that moment. And I remember feeling none of that. Like my legs were good. I don't know if I had a good sweat on me or not. I don't remember, but I just felt warm. I felt loose. I felt ready to go more than I've ever felt in the past. And I've had very few fights that were like that, where I felt that good. So, and this is funny. Round starts, and I remember, and I had been so active in camp with my left hand. So I really put a lot of stock into what I was going to be doing off the jab and off the feint. And I've been working a lot on James Toney's, different movements and things that I could do, replicate kind of what he did. And I was planning on doing a lot of that, but everything was going to be starting from that jab, that jab, that left hand, the left jab, feint, and just in general off of that side, getting him to be such a sucker for the jab. And I remember the first few shots that I threw and the first movements I made in the ring, and how it just felt like I was gliding, like I had nothing holding me back. Like there was no, I went 12 rounds in that ring and that night, and I swear to you, I felt as good in the last round as I felt in the beginning. It felt like I did absolutely nothing the entire fight. But in the first round, I started off, do a couple of jabs out there just to see what he had. And, he, kind of basic. What I was, honestly, he was exactly what I expected up to that point. And then, as we got in, I wanted him to be active because I like to have a guy throw punches at me, kind of giving me an idea of what I'm going to be dealing with, power-wise, if he can touch me, and just speed-wise, so I can kind of gauge if I'm going to be able to, do I have to keep my hands up high all night, or am I going to be able to, drop my hands a little bit and, figure out what it is I need to do. And I remember him throwing a couple shots and I'm making a miss, and I'm like, damn. And like, I thought he was supposed to be fast. It's like, I almost felt like Peter Parker in Spider-Man when he threw the shot at me. I was looking at his arm like, yo, like, is he really trying to hit me? Like, it makes you really think like, damn, is he really trying to hit me? And so I move around a little more, and I want to see if that's really all he has. And I remember him throwing some other shots. I remember throwing a shot to my body. And if you watch the tape of the fight, and you'll see my face, make this face, and in the ring, I'm like, no, this dude really, he ain't like that, man. He's not even at all what these people were trying to make him out to be. Now, I'm not trying to say he's not a good fighter or anything like that, but and we're not a great fighter, not a former champ, because he was. But I'm like, they're talking about how great a boxer this guy was, and I just felt like he couldn't touch me. Like, if I didn't want him to, he wouldn't have touched me all night. And that's really how I felt. And I felt like I kind of did that in the course of the fight. He really never hit me clean at all. You know what I mean? And maybe once or twice. And I remember just like making that face and saying, man, this is going to be a fun night. Man, I was just looking forward to it. So as that first round continues to go on, all of a sudden, I throw a jab, and I was, throwing a hook off the jab as well. I threw a jab, but then I threw a hook off it. And then there's some real weird feeling happened, like a really, really, really weird feeling with my bicep area. And I'm like, what the hell? And I pulled it back, and I looked at it, and it looked kind of weird. And I was like, what the hell's going on down here? And I said, you know what? It felt like the kind of a pain is, you ever have like a string caught on you from your shorts? If you had a string from your shorts, it kind of got wrapped around your arm or something like that, and it kind of pulls like it's kind of digging into you a little bit. It has like a weird little not tearing, but a pinching kind of pain. And that's what I thought it was. I was like looking at my trunks. I'm like, what the hell? And I looked down a couple times just to kind of see what was going on. So I said, okay, all right. And then I threw it again, and it felt kind of weird again. And I'm like, what the hell is? And I'm like, yo, I gotta. And I don't know if I reached on my arm or something. I can't remember if I did that or not. But I know in my mind, I was like, man, something is really wrong over here. And I threw a right hand, a couple other things, and I was really toward the end of that round. And so the round's over, and I go back to the corner, and I'm looking down, and I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on? And so I sit down in the corner, and I'm looking up, and I'm talking to Bashir, and Bashir like, what's wrong? He's like, no, I don't think it's anything. I think we are. I think it's. I didn't really even tell him anything about it because I didn't really think nothing of it at the time. You know what I mean? I thought, it's just all right. I wasn't throwing any more jabs because it felt like something was wrong. But I was like, I think it's all right. I'm just gonna go in and I'll try it this time. I'll see what happens. Went out there the second round. Tried to throw a couple of jabs, same damn thing. I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on? And every time I tried to throw a shot with my left, it felt like crazy, like I couldn't do it. Like I just didn't want to do it. And even if I let my arm hang down, it bothered me. So I picked it up, and I just basically kind of kept it up a little bit, or at least like in a Philly shell kind of way where you block your lower half, the lower part of your body around your cup. So I either kept it there or kept it up. And I was like, damn, I couldn't extend it. Like I could maybe throw a hook or something with it, but I didn't trust that because of how the pain was. It was weird. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to have to figure something out. And I think through that in the second round, I started throwing like a lot of right hands, a lot of counter right hands. And I even turned southpaw a little bit at times through the jab. And I was just kind of like basically trying to win the round, but trying to keep him at bay, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. Then I went back to the corner after the second and was talking to Bashir and said, hey, I think something's wrong, man. I can't throw this. I can't throw my left hand. He's like, what you want to do? And I was like, well, I ain't come this far to bottle it. I was like, yo, I'm just going to keep going, see what happens. I didn't think about quitting or anything. I just wondering, like, I'll keep going. Fuck it. And so I got out there, and then next round I went out, I don't know if I went out southpaw or if I started right-handed and just started basically using his offense because I knew he was a really busy fighter. I started using his offense to create mine. Because of course, a lot of counter right hands. I hit him with so many counter right hands through that fight. I feel like if I could have really sat down on him a little better, and if I would have been a little more powerful at that time, a little heavier, I would have probably been able to do some real damage. But at the time, I think I made my presence felt, but I don't think it was enough. And at that point, it was like, well, I don't have my left hand, so the punch count thing, where we're just overwhelming him with punches and speed, would have probably done the deed for me and maybe get him out of there because we didn't really think we could win a decision in Little Poland, and we really thought that was the case. It was not going to be possible, but with my left hand, we would have been able to overwhelm him and just maybe stop him or something late. But obviously with the injury, I wasn't able to do it. So it was like, yo, man, just do the best you can with what you have, and that's what my mind was. What was in my mind. So, as the fight goes on, I'm starting to try to figure out different ways of being more active and using one hand. So I say, I have to switch. I'm going to have to switch sometime. I'm going to have to use the jab from the southpaw side because I won't be able to just throw just straight right hands all day without, I got to have some kind of adversity. It's got to be something that's going to happen. That's going to maybe offset him, maybe change the angle. So I said, you know what? Periodically, I'm going to just switch back and forth. And I actually thought about it. Like, what would happen if I hurt my left hand in a fight? Me and Steve used to talk about hypothetical things like, what would we do if you hurt your left hand? Like, man, I'd just switch up, or I would just do this, or I would just do that. And I always thought, and we talked about these things, and I had always thought, like, what would I do? Sure enough, it's a good thing that we had some of them conversations, and that I had the cojones to try some of these moves in a high level fight with the guy. But I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to switch back and forth when it suits me. I'm going to look for opportunities and try to land some shots and see what happens. And I got more and more confidence as the rounds went on and on. And I just felt like, man, he hasn't hit me clean at all the entire fight. And with the conditioning the condition I was in, I was like, even with one hand, I felt like I could have fought 30, 40 rounds, and it wouldn't bother me none. And so I said, you know what? Let me just try to pick up the punch count the best way I can. So I tried to keep pace with one hand with him throwing both his. And he's already a busy fighter. But my thing was also to do is just like Floyd. When Floyd fights guys, he drops their punch count because they're so unsure about range with him. And I feel like I had that same kind of effect on Tomasz with the counter right hands, and then the switching with the right jab, and just the different things I was trying to do, and giving him so many different looks. He was just really unsure. So as the fight went on, I had him guessing, and I started even turning from throwing my counter straight right hand to overhand counter right hand, which kind of really got him. And I even threw some rock off, which would be like the counter right hand, and then turning into a southpaw jab, switching it's a crazy looking thing. If you see it, if you have a chance to watch the fight, but it worked. And it was like, I had him not going like I was going to stop him, but I felt like I had him. I felt like I was winning rounds. I felt like I was doing the job. I felt like I had it under control. And I remember Bashir at the end of the round was like, man, you're doing well, but look where we are. You know what I'm saying? I need you to win this last round big, not messing around. So once he put that in my head, I was like, damn, I gotta do something dramatic here. I gotta do something drastic. You know what I mean? Because I don't know where we are in the fight. I mean, I don't feel like I got hit or anything, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have to win, and I know where we are. So I said, so in the last round, instead of just doing what I had been doing, which is just, boxing his head off, in my opinion, I changed what I was doing and said, okay, well, now I'm going to look for a little blood. I'm going to look and see if I can get a big shot in here, because as it stands, we don't know what's going on. I could be losing rounds. He could be up. The fight could be close. I don't know. And I think I need to do something to at least solidify that I'm the king in here, like that I'm actually the one winning, that I'm controlling the fight. And so I tried to get close to him, which it really wasn't hard to do that, but I was trying to land a heavy shot, like a big shot. And it was hard for me to do that, being that I only had one hand. If you understand what I mean, it's like the other hand, you use your other hand, your jabs, your feints, and things like that to set up generally your big shot. That's really how you're supposed to land your right hand, off of the jab, off of the jab or off of a feint. Really, single right hands don't really land that often. You have to be a special guy to land them often. I'm not saying I'm overly special, but it's just you have to have a certain way about your style and how to really land a lot of counter right hands. Like you look at Floyd, you look at me, I guess, because you look at this fight, and you see how these things happen, and you have to literally be a split second off timing. You got to make sure you're able to time him perfectly. And obviously when you're doing it so much and you're training so hard and you're doing all these different things, these things come a little easier than what most people will look and say, well, damn, I don't think I could do that. You know what I mean? But guys like myself, guys like Floyd, other special talents that are out there, Lomachenko, different guys that you're looking at now, and they're able to do those types of things. And that was what I needed. But because I had started trying to walk him down and try to be a little, try to land a big shot, he had started to retreat more. And I guess his corner was telling him, maybe you're ahead, but it didn't look like it at the end. But anyway, they were probably saying, maybe just go out there and finish the fight. I don't know what was in their mind, but he had started to retreat. But in that last round, he still threw like 90 or so, 90 something punches, maybe close to 100 punches. So, close to 100 punches. So it was like, damn, I tried to make something happen, but because I was looking just for that big shot, I really wasn't active. All I was doing was following him around, and I kind of got off with a plan that we had. I should have probably just stuck with what I was doing and just been a little bit more active with my right hand. But hey, things happened, and that was the situation. But I still felt pretty good, so I go back to the corner, and I was talking to the guys, and I asked them, I was like, "Yo, what you think? What you think?" He's like, "Yo, oh man, you blew him out. You won easy." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I'm happy. I'm ready to celebrate. But then I'm like, "Wait a minute. No, this is little Poland. You know what I mean? I'm a Johnny come lately to this promotional group, so I don't necessarily think they got any real. They're not really backing me like that. I mean, this is their cash guy, Tomasz, right now. Him and Kovalev was their cash guys at the time. I'm like, man, I don't know. I was like, I think I really at that point I had a real negative thought process toward what I thought was going to happen, and I ended up being right. They announced the card. One judge gave it 119-109. One judge gave it 117, I think, to 111, I think, and the other one was like 116, 112 or something like that. But one judge gave me 119, 109. That means I only got one round. And they announced. At first, I was like, "Damn, is they giving that decision to me like that?" And I said, "Hell no, it's not possible." So once the decision was announced, and I was like, "Wow," like that. I didn't really even hear the numbers. I didn't really pay attention to the numbers as much as I was just listening to, like one was higher and one was low. I wasn't really paying attention to exactly how many rounds it was that they had for whoever, for the winner and for the loser. And, once they announced who the winner was, I was just like, damn, I didn't. And then I started thinking about the round, like, damn, I didn't get no rounds. Like on one of the cards, I only got freaking one round. The other card, I got 3, and the other one maybe 4. And I'm like, that's it? In a fight. And it's funny because if you look at the corners at the end of the fight, my corner looked like we just had won, and his corner like they lost. Like they felt like, if you saw, I'm telling you, if you watch it, you saw their face, they look real good. It's like, oh man, like they're like, oh, we blew it type thing. And then you looked at my corner, we over there like ready to freaking celebrate, like ready to pop bottles and all that crap. And, when you hear the decision, it just kind of gives you a different outlook on boxing. It just makes you just say, what's the purpose of doing all this? But it just really is the one thing I'll say about this fight that what happened that was good, aside from getting money, was that it actually gave me probably the highest level of confidence I've ever had since I've been boxing. Because I felt at that point that I was it. I felt like I could have fought anybody and beat them. That's how good I felt. And I owe that a lot to my team. Obviously, at the time, it was, I got to say with Bashir and Steve and just everybody that was there that was pushing me, and obviously the sparring partners that was helping me, because I felt solid. I felt like I could do anything I wanted. And the worst thing, though, the one of the worst, obviously, was the decision. But having that injury, and it put me out for another 6 to 8 months, and I couldn't get back into the ring until that the next summer. And obviously, being out again for 10 months before I got another fight, then would be kind of detrimental. But I remember there was something that, you know what? I don't want to go into that now. let's leave that here. Let's leave it here at where we are, at the end of the Tomasz fight. But there's going to be some other stuff that I'm going to talk about once we get into the next installment of where we're going to go from here.
Okay, well, there we go. That is the Adamek fight. And yeah, the judge that gave you only one round, which was, I don't even know where to go with the description for him. But yeah, that judge, Alan Rubenstein from Philadelphia.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
How the only Philly? Yo, it could have been somebody. Why the guy from Philly?
I've got no idea.
Yo, the guy from Philly. That's supposed to be my judge.
Yeah, the other two judges, which were Joseph Pasquale and Steve Weisfeld, both from New Jersey as well. Yeah.
Oh my God. What was it? Was I right on the cards? It was 119, 109, and then 117, 11, 116, 12?
119, 109, Alan Rubenstein and Steve Weisfeld and Joseph Pasquale. 116, 112, both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was one round off. but still, man, that's still like even 116, 112. Now, if you would have said 7-5, edged them out a little bit, all right, I'm cool with that. But 8-4, nah. 8-4, no. Anything else, I would have been cool with 8-4. Not anything else, but 9-3, 8-4, 10, 11, 1. No, hell no.
Yeah, and you're right to feel like that. Like I say, I hope our listeners at some point, whether you did it between last week's show and this week's show, or perhaps you're going to check it out after this. If you've got the time to go and check it out, look at it. It's in great quality on YouTube, and let us know your scorecard, because for years since that fight took place, it hasn't sat right with many people. Not just me, not just Eddie, but many people. That's some of the strangest judging I've seen. It was really bad. But anyway, that wraps up this edition of the Lockdown Knockdown. It was a good fight to go over, even though it brings back mad memories. I mean, bad memories, and mad. Yeah, mad and bad. But you tore your bicep early on, and then had to fight in Southpaw from there on out. The fight after that, Eddie, is another bad one. Unfortunately, it's when you do decide to move down to cruiserweight. That'll be, I'm guessing, next week.
We'll do next.
That'll be interesting as well. So that's that done. The final thing I'm going to do is I almost forgot. I'm gonna dedicate this little 1 or 2 minutes here to loyal listener Luigi Pelosi. He's Italian. He heard from on last week's show about that pizza story. With that massive pizza, Eddie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a real Italian. He said, you got to stop eating that kind of pizza. You need to have the real deal pizza. So he gave me a recommendation of this place called Pizzeria Santa Maria, and he gave me their locations. There's like 3 scattered around London. So anyway, I went to the one nearest to me, which is in Fulham. I went there yesterday, so Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so I go in there, to get a takeaway. I ask for the pizza I want, and the lady there says to me, "Okay, you paying by card?" Yes, I'm paying by card. So I wait, is this true? You don't have contactless payment in America, no?
What, contactless? No. Well, you mean like we do payment a lot of times on like if you order food, from.
No, but I mean, not even just ordering food, but I mean, I've been obviously with you in supermarkets and stuff like that, but if I'm going to pay for something in the UK, I just get my card and tap it on like a machine and it just goes beep and that's it. I don't have to enter a PIN.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. Okay. You could do that here. I mean, I don't have that on mine.
Okay.
I just, I insert it and that's it.
Yeah, because I don't enter a PIN, I don't sign anything, it's just tap, go. Okay, I didn't know, because someone told me that they don't have that over there, and I was thinking, what?
No, they do. Okay. They do have it. Like certain companies have it.
Okay. Anyway, I tap on, to pay for it, and then the lady says, "Okay, the pizza's going to be about 5 minutes." Okay, I come back in 5 minutes. So I get back in the car, wait about 5 minutes, go back in there, and the lady says, "Okay, here's the pizza. However, the payment didn't go through." So I'm embarrassed. I'm thinking, oh my God, my card's declined. Did I not have enough money for this pizza in there? And then she says, oh, no, it's not your fault. Basically, the payment device that they use, for some reason, it dropped the internet connection, so it didn't go through on their end. So I'm like, oh. And then she goes, have you got any cash on you at all? And I said, no, I haven't got any cash on me, just my card, And she goes, okay, well, this one's on us. Next time, don't worry, next time. So I take the pizza, right, for free. So, you there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
I thought you'd be clapping about this. I got a free pizza already.
I am. And I'm clapping, but I'm clapping in my mind, but I'm also waiting for the punchline right now because I'm pretty sure what I'm gonna hear is going to be good.
Yes, I get back to the car, open it up. Man, I'm taking you here when you come over here. This pizza puts to shame anything y'all got over there. Hey, listen, I'm telling you the truth. This pizza, as Luigi Pelosi said, and it's a fine recommendation, so I'm really, really happy that you recommended this place. But it was like, it's authentic Southern Italian pizza, man. It was proper, good, authentic, genuine. Any good words that come to my brain are getting put in this sentence. It was delicious, man. It was beautiful. Beautiful. It's one of those times, I don't know if you've ever had a pizza like this, Eddie, because again, in America, they do things big, they do things crazy sometimes. But you eat a whole pizza and you feel like it just slid down. You almost feel like, hey, I could eat another one of those right now. You know?
Yo, 100%. Trust me, I'm not trying to say that's not the best pizza in the world, but I am saying that there are places over here that you just have to go to the right place. But trust me, you'll find something over here. It's just like you find that hoagie joint, which was in a gas station. Wasn't even, you know what I mean?
But
it's a surprise. You know what I mean? But
Philly cheesesteak. Philly cheesesteak is, it's from Philly. Where we went to that gas station was close to Philly. Southern Italy is closer to London than the US. That's my argument point.
Very true. That is. Hey, listen. Hey, when you say that's true, if there's going to be some real, don't get me wrong. There's some over here always fight over
Italian Americans, of course.
But still, I mean, it all depends. Like I said, it depends on where you are. I mean, I'm pretty sure somewhere in New York, you'll find a great spot there. But it has to be. Like, I know it's not a chain. You know what I'm saying? Like, chain restaurants, cool, some of them. But trust me, the best ones you're going to have is going to be something like that. Where maybe there's like 2 or 3 of them or one, and you have to go all the way there.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing, you know what I mean? Because obviously they're not putting it on the assembly line. It's legit. It's right off the grill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Family-owned type places like that, they put
100%.
their soul into it. But yeah, just a massive thank you to Luigi Pelosi for recommending that place. I went all the way over there. It didn't take me too long, but drove over there just for that, and didn't have to pay for it in the end. So I was extremely happy. The only bad thing is I'm not sure if I can go back in there because they might ask me to pay for the second visit. They might say, "Hey, I remember you."
Shoot, I'll go and pay for that and that. Like, just to try is the way you talking. Like, shoot, I don't even eat cheese, but I might have to do it for that if it's that good.
Yeah, no, we definitely have to hit that place up. But anyway, that's it for all the talking. We didn't do any reviewing. We didn't do any previewing. There's nothing to do. Thank God we had Eddie here with the Lockdown Knockdown segment. Thank you once again to you for that, Eddie. I did the news. It was only one thing to announce. It was just that Herring and Frampton are getting it on in late February. That's the pizza chat done this week. The final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of my personal favourite fighters in world boxing. It is, of course, the former light-heavyweight world title challenger, soon to challenge for a title once again. It is, of course, Mr. Joe Smith Jr. Joe, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Joe. It truly is. This, of course, is the first time we've had you on the show, so it really is a pleasure having you. At the end of every year on this podcast, we do like like a kind of end of year awards kind of thing, and we discuss, you know, the fighter of the year, stuff like that. I remember how amazing your 2016 was. I remember thinking you were one of the best fighters in that year, and a couple of weeks ago at the end of 2020, I gave fighter of the year to Teofimo Lopez, but I gave you a special mention again because your 2020 was amazing. I'm excited to have you on, man. I'm really excited for this, Joe.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
No problem. But anyway, let's get into it. I've probably watched all of your fights since that stunning knockout in the first round over Andre Fonfara some years back, which was very impressive. I remember him giving a good fight to Adonis Stevenson, then he beat Chavez, then he beat Nathan Cleverly, one of our top fighters at the time. You destroyed him in a round. Is that your personal favourite win of your career, Joe?
I mean, it's definitely up there. It's definitely one of my top wins. You know, I have a few, but that was a great night, man. It doesn't get much better than that, you know, unless you're winning a world championship doing it.
And I want to go back again to the fight after that. Obviously, Bernard Hopkins. I remember watching that fight like it was yesterday. It was a brilliant fight while it lasted, and then boom, you know, you punch him out the ring. He lands on the top of his head, which bizarrely affected his ability to walk. Tell us about that one in a few words, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great night for me as well. I mean, I knocked out a legend, and, you know, no one else was able to do it, and all his fights that he had. And, it was just a great accomplishment for me.
And again, moving up the timeline, you know, you boxed Sullivan Barrera, which at the time I felt was a brilliant, brilliant fight. You had him down in the very first round. However, something seemed to go wrong. What seemed to go wrong for you that night, Joe?
Well, that night, I actually went into the fight, you know, feeling like there was something wrong, you know, with, I had an injury in my jaw. You know, I went and got it checked out from a doctor about 2 weeks before the fight, but, you know, they told me they didn't really see anything. They said if there was something there, it was very, you know, minor, where, you know, it wasn't enough really to call off the fight. You know, although I was in pain and didn't feel 100%, I didn't want to, you know, risk calling off the fight either, because I knew I would be in line for a shot at a title after that. But, you know, I ended up taking the fight. But, you know, once I got hit with a good shot, it finished it off.
Yeah, these things happen. And obviously, it's almost been 2 years now since the Dimitri Bivol fight. And again, I remember watching that. I remember you, I think, catching him just after the bell in one of the rounds, and we saw him staggered for the first time in his career. He's a great fighter, Bivol. I'm sure you probably rate him as one of the best at 175.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that was a great fight for me. You know, I learned a few things in that fight that I needed to change and go back to the gym and work on. And, you know, I feel like I've been improving on those things with each and every fight I had since. So, you know, I'm looking forward to this fight, proving that, you know, I improved even more.
And you mentioned there, since then, you know, you rolled into 2020. You had a great year, like I said, a split decision win over Jesse Hart and a knockout win against Alida Alvarez in what I thought would be a very hard fight for you, to be honest. And in fact, I think it was probably the most impressive display of your career, not just because Alvarez had been a world champion, not just because Kovalev couldn't knock him out and you did, but you showed so much to your game in that fight. You were setting things up, you were boxing brilliantly, and you were more creative than I've ever seen you. You know, you were throwing all kinds of shots, every shot in the book. And some people have said in the past, you know, if they're being critical, they might have said you might be slightly one-dimensional. Absolutely not in that fight. You were tremendous.
Yeah, you know, I have some boxing abilities. You know, I just
a lot more than some
tend to not use. I tend to just look for the big punch sometimes. So, you know, I've just been working on, you know, setting things up more and being a little more patient and more busy.
Yeah, like I say, I was just so thoroughly impressed. It was just, honestly, it was beautiful to watch. But let's look to the future. Like you said, you're getting another shot at a world title, this time for the vacant WBO light heavyweight world title. It's more than deserved, in my opinion. Maxim Vlasov is the man in the other corner, the man who started his career at middleweight, moved up to cruiserweight, and is now back down at light heavy. Do you know much about your opponent here, Joe?
I've watched a lot of his fights. A few on YouTube, whatever I can see. And, I see he's a very busy fighter. He's aggressive. He's always coming forward and punching. He's got good movement, but most of all, he's always busy. So you just got to be in great shape and make sure you're punching with him and don't let him control the pace. And really it.
And what are your kind of thoughts on him as a fighter? I know you went into it just a little bit there, but, he has kind of had a very different career to you in terms of the fact that you could say, I'm not knocking him, but you could say he's somewhat got a bit of an inflated record. He's boxed some really good guys, but where you've kind of boxed, hard fight after hard fight since 2016 and beyond. What are your thoughts on him? I guess this fight will be one where you will, like all your fights, try to get your opponent into deep waters with you.
Yeah, I think he's a well-experienced fighter, so you can't underestimate anything he's done. But I'm looking forward to it. I want to put on a great show. I'd like to get him out of there if I can, but I'm prepared to go the distance with him.
And, of course, the fight takes place February the 13th back at the Bubble in the MGM Grand Las Vegas, the same place you stopped Alvarez. Do you enjoy fighting in that kind of environment with no crowds there, Joe?
Yes, I like it, but I also love having my family and friends and, fans watching and cheering me on. But I know I could hear them in my head, honestly, when I'm in there. I picture them sitting in front of their TV screaming my name, while I'm in there doing my thing. But, I'm in there and I'm focused on just getting that victory. That's the main goal, is to get the victory and, just put on a great show for them all.
And I want to ask you this question here as well. Obviously, it's been well documented that you've worked a construction job throughout your boxing career, so you're just like the average person out there that work these normal jobs, but you train and you fight outside of those hours. Have you already exceeded your expectations as a boxer, coming from your background, or did you always feel like you were good enough to perhaps win a world title? And, of course, you're very close to achieving that now.
The goal has always been to become a world champion. So, I haven't done it yet. So once I do that, I'll be, I still won't be satisfied. I want to unify belts and, just, be known as a great fighter,
Absolutely. And, we've whizzed through this a lot quicker than I thought we perhaps would. I've got two last questions here. I must ask you this, Joe, because everyone from here in the UK likes me to ask this question to everyone that we speak to from overseas. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here. Who comes to mind when I ask you who's your favourite fighter from the UK? It can be any era. It can be a guy that retired 120 years ago. It can be a guy that's still boxing today. Who springs to mind for you?
Honestly, I don't really have a favorite boxer anywhere. I could name a few guys that I thought were great, but I don't know. You guys got a lot of great fighters though from the UK. There's a lot of them out there.
Okay, I'll throw a name at you then. Just a fun. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Let's see what you got.
No, I was just going to say another guy that I feel is, right up there in your division, for example, obviously another dangerous puncher like yourself. He's a guy who I think, why would you want to fight him? And that's the same what I feel about you. Why would you want to fight him? Joe Smith's so dangerous. He can punch with both hands just like this guy. Callum Johnson, who, of course, had a good fight with Beterbiev.
Yes. He's definitely a big puncher, and he's definitely a great fighter. He's definitely up there with the top heavyweights, light heavyweights. But maybe in the future, it's something. But I'm just looking at getting some titles. I want the title shots. I want the big fight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you should, my friend. You deserve it. And just finally, Joe, before we let you go, if you've got any closing words, just to the listeners, mainly in the UK, because like I said, there's a lot of guys, including myself, that have stayed up till the early hours of the morning to watch you knock people out. You've got a hell of a lot of fans over here, my friend, and I don't know how often you get to communicate with them. I'm guessing you probably get a lot of messages and stuff on social media, but what's your message vocally to your fans over here that support you from this side of the pond?
I'm just appreciated, to have you guys and fans, and I hope you tune in on the 13th and enjoy the fight.
Absolutely. Listen, Joe, it's been an absolute delight and an honour to speak with you. Thank you for your time. Best of luck for February 13th, and I hope that the next time we talk, I'm talking to the new WBO light heavyweight champion of the world.
You will, most definitely. I'm in here putting the hard hours of training in every day. This way I know that title's mine when the 13th comes.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 274 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our unexpected guest on this week's podcast, the top light heavyweight contender who we all want to see win a world title, I feel. And that, of course, is Mr. Joe Smith Jr. It's a feel-good story for sure. But that's about everything from myself. A massive thank you to all of you for listening once again. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.